because we were really praying for the salvation of the United States, we could see the direction that the world would head towards if he lost. And it's been proven true. All the critics and all the people who thought it doesn't matter, well, it sure matters to you, doesn't it? It matters to how much you're paying, what food is now in shortage, the petrol price, the wars that are going on. It sure matters. The censorship is just out of control. If you want to say anything truthful, it's so bad. But this week may be the turnaround. Elon Musk is taking over Twitter this week. Did you know that? Yeah. So that's why they're trying to destroy his life now. And they use the government to destroy you. Can you imagine that? The government is meant to serve us. But because we abdicated our role in promoting righteousness and justice at all levels of society, God wants us to be like leaven that leavens the whole lump. We're supposed to influence all of society, but we abdicated that, honestly. So because of that, we slowly retreated into our little corner, into our little safe space. We'll just have church for 1 or 2 hours. God forbid more than 2 hours. Churches are now like 1 hour. We're down to 1 hour. 20 minutes worship, 20-minute sermon, and all the other announcements. Announcements can go a long time with other churches. So how do we disciple people? When you're sitting at the feet of Hollywood for hours on end, you're watching Korean drama hours on end, you're at the brainwashing academic schools for days on end, years on end, how do we make a disciple if they're only willing to have 20 minutes of full-on attention? It's very difficult, isn't it? So the devil has succeeded in dumbing down people. I can't, imagination cannot have thought. No eye has seen, no ear has heard the amount of dumbing down that happened. And we didn't pay attention to it. We, the church, did not. I think we did, but we, the church at large, did not. So what's happened now is we live in a society where recently, in a college campus, a girl got raped. Okay, a girl got raped. That's a crime, isn't it? That's a violent crime. A woman got raped. Just like, I think, going down the stairwell was snatched. The perpetrator was, here's the description, was carrying a black bag. Who are you going to arrest when the police description is a man carrying a black bag? You can't say that he's a black man? No, because it goes against the narrative. But he was a black man. In the college campus, rapes this woman, and a petition goes out that, hey, security is really lax on the campus. We need more security. More security means more police. And the left-wing outrage machine began. The brown people will be discriminated if more police walk around the campus. Black people may get triggered. They will feel uncomfortable if the police walk around the campus. So now you're more afraid of the police than the actual rapist who is walking around free. And you know what the college-educated minds do? When the outrage factory start churning this false outrage, the guy who petitioned for more security, he wrote an apology and said he is to even ask for more security. He feels like he's a monster. And he said he might have to transfer to another school. What's he doing? He's covering his butt so that they don't come and attack him. What an insane, dumbed-down world we live in. We're here to make disciples. And it's going to take more than 20 minutes of your attention to make a disciple per week. We're going to ask you to pay attention for 2 hours. At any time, God can speak, and He does. And He's got your life in control. We say in control, not that He's controlling you, but if you surrender to Him, He's in charge. He's not in charge of the terrorists. You can't say He's in charge of everything. He's not in charge of what's going on with the White House and Ukraine. He's not in charge with blowing up Nord Stream 2, so there's going to be not enough energy. For the first time since Germany was a barbaric state, there's going to be not enough energy for this winter. People are going to die this winter in a supposed modern world nation. Civilization is energy. You cut the energy off, you don't have production, you don't have warmth, you don't have cooling in the summer, warmth in the winter, you're going to die. And you're not going to be able to fight, you're not going to win any war, and they're depleting what they call the strategic petroleum reserve. Strategic petroleum reserve. That means they have backup energy in case a catastrophe happens. Biden is just selling it to China. This is why, if we had not let go of the youth, if we had not let go of politics, we would have had some salting effect on the earth. Jesus says that you are salt and you are light. Salt, if we are salt, that means there is corrosion going on. There is decay in society. And we're meant to do something about it. And now that we've gone so far that the university-age kids can't think properly and are more fearful to say the truth than to stand up for any principle. They just don't want to be criticized. They don't want their friends to hate them. That's all it is. They're willing to let a rapist roam around because they care more about their friends' approval. We are in a gutless, spineless generation. And if you're attacked on the street, no one's going to come in that generation to help you. That's where we're living in. That's what we're living in. And this was one of the first events that happened to me when I came to Australia. I've always been Australian. I'm half Australian by birth. But I came back 22 years ago. And one of the first articles that impressed me that I never forgot was somebody was walking out of Safeway. Back then it was Safeway, right? It's not even Safeway anymore. It was an old lady. I don't know if you remember this. And somebody mugged her and beat her up outside of Safeway. Took her purse. And that was the end of the article. And I, having just come out of, America 20 years ago, a little bit different, I said, where are the men? That was my gut reaction, the first reaction. Where are the men? And nobody could answer it, and now 20 years later, I'm still asking, where are the men? Where are the people who risk their life, risk their reputation, risk their friends' approval to stand up for something? What's the point of being Christian? What's the point of saying somebody died and went to hell and resurrected from the dead for you if you're not even willing to put some skin in the game and protect a helpless 80-year-old woman getting mugged? How many guys would it take to stop that? 2, 3, done. I don't care what size, I don't care if he's a kung fu black belt. You get 3, 4 guys on a thug, he's finished. But nobody's there. Nobody's there. I just want to say that to you right now, that if somebody walked in here and did something bad, I'll lunge at him, but if I'm the only one, I might get stabbed to death, okay? That might be the end of Pastor Steve. So if you see me lunge, I like 2 or 3 other guys at least. This is what everybody does, he says. First of all, that's what people do. See, because you don't expect tragedy to happen. When something serious happens, people get shocked. People cannot think straight because they're in a world of TV and entertainment. They don't know what to do. So you got to be on guard. We live in a crazy world with sinners, and they can do bad things. They can abduct a 12-year-old girl in broad daylight, rape and kill them, which has just happened in France. We need youth that have a backbone. We need youth that are not afraid to be rejected by their peers and to stand up for what is right and say, a rapist is a rapist. We need to arrest this person. We need to protect women and children. And, this is what I believe, right? This is what I believe. 2 guys went hiking. Did you hear the story? And a grizzly bear, Okay, the real deal. A grizzly bear came and attacked the friend. Now, of course, this is in America. You know what the other guy did? He climbed on the bear and pulled his ear. The bear turned around, looked at him, and just like pushed him. He said just pushed him to the ground and started clawing his leg, clawing his face. He's got a chunk of skin out. He's got punctures all over the place. But the guy, the friend, got up, and then he said he poked the ear, he pulled on the fur, and the bear just kept going back and forth between the two guys. But the two guys, because they could fight two on one bear, two humans on one bear, finally the bear gave up and left. Even a bear is looking for an easy target. Even a terrorist, I'm telling you, even if somebody walks in with a gun, what would you do? All they say is duck and hide. You're just a sitting duck. What would you do? This is Israel training, so you do whatever you wish, okay? But in Israel, they don't tell you to just go hide, because if you're a Jew, they're coming for you. So what they say is, everybody who is able, grab anything you can throw. You can grab that mic, I don't care. You can grab the camera, you can grab that light there, you can grab the chair. If you have 50 people throwing stuff randomly at a guy with a gun, he will be disarmed. It doesn't matter what he thinks he has. Nobody can shoot like Rambo or the Terminator. It's really hard to shoot. You go out shooting, and I'll take you out shooting if you come on some mission trip with me. It's not easy to shoot even still targets. You know, you get any amateur trying to shoot, you can have it in the crosshair like this. The moment you pull the trigger, boop, you just went like that. You missed. You have to be so still. You have to have nerves of steel. You have to train yourself in how to pull the trigger. And if you're running and people are throwing things at you and the target's moving, it's not that easy to kill people. So when you see killings happen, that means everybody was either protecting themselves, looking after themselves. Nobody thought about the situation in terms of how can we help each other. So I want you to start thinking that way, and I want to raise up youth who think that way. If we refuse to be easy target, we continue to pray strong prayers, we take authority over our land, then God promised we will be the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Our presence makes a difference. I think it's won or lost first in the Spirit, by people who know things in the Spirit. And we who see things in the Spirit, we always look a little bit, kooky, I guess, because we see it ahead of time. So if it's not fulfilled tomorrow, people say, oh, it's false, or it's false alarm. But something is coming. Now, I want to show you one thing, and then I want to introduce our speaker. I am not the speaker today. I want to introduce our speaker, a youth and a future youth leader who has been raised up in this house, and I'm very proud of him. But I want to show you, just so that you know why Pastor Steve feels this way. I'm not making it up, okay? Here is a public service announcement by New York City. Okay, New York City is probably the most important center of finance, the most important city in terms of finance in the world. New York, then London. They made this public service announcement a few days ago.
So there's been a nuclear attack. Don't ask me how or why, just know that the big one has hit, okay? So what do? There are 3 important steps that I want you to remember. Step 1, get inside fast. You, your friends, your family, get inside. And no, staying in the car is not an option. You need to get into a building and move away from the windows. Step 2, stay inside. Shut all doors and windows. Have a basement? Head there. If you don't have one, get as far into the middle of the building as possible. If you were outside after the blast, get clean immediately. Remove and bag all outer clothing to keep radioactive dust or ash away from your body. Step 3, stay tuned. Follow media for more information. Don't forget to sign up for Notify NYC for official alerts and updates. And don't go outside until officials say it's safe. All right? You've got this.
And they say, "You got this?" It's a piece of cake, a walk through the park. Nobody's got this. This is risking the entire human population and civilization. And it's all preventable if they don't keep pushing Russia. It's called peace talks. Nobody is interested in peace talks. The first time not the first time, in all wars, you will find it's the one thing the Republicans and the Democrats agree on. They can't seem to agree on anything except war. If you talk about war, they're all in it together. They're all for funding Ukraine together. Is that astounding? And by the way, if you want to know why Trump was so unpopular, you can trace it to the day. You can trace it to the event, the very day. He was at a rally, I think it was North Carolina, could be South. And on that day, remember Trump used to be popular? He used to have the show The Apprentice. They thought he was funny, they thought he was successful. He was a real estate mogul in New York. He was a popular guy. But on the day that Trump said that we made a mistake going to war in Iraq, on that day, the whole entertainment, Hollywood, and media machine turned against him and tried to destroy Trump. It was the Never Trump movement from that day. So this is the world we live in. If you're for war, you'll get billions and billions of dollars and you'll be popular on TV. If you're against war, like now Elon Musk is, they will try to destroy your life. They are now starting a federal investigation of Elon Musk to see how his business dealings may be a national security threat. Now remember, he provided free satellite coverage, free internet for Ukraine the entire time. Free. And everybody said he's a hero. He's finally awakened to the fact that this is a bottomless money pit. Nobody wants peace. What are we doing? We are facilitating the mass killing and murder of people. We need to stop. The moment he said, "Let's talk peace," they've turned on him and they're going to use the power of the federal government to investigate him. And you can paint a picture of any guy that's doing business and make him look bad, because all business investments, every company in America has foreign investors. So now it's just a matter of trying to tie the pieces. Well, who are your foreign investors, and how deep and dark are their secrets? And you just trace it. And then you make that person look bad. So they're saying, well, Elon Musk has foreign investors, so we need to now look at him as a national security threat. What a world we live in. So what we're saying is, the Bible says for sure that a nuclear event is coming. If you don't know that, there are at least 4 clear references. There are more. There are wars and rumors of war, but I'll say, okay, let's say that that's quite general. There are very specific descriptions of nuclear events in the Bible, obviously long before we even knew what atomic energy and nuclear power was about. But God knew, correct? So I'll read this to you and let you think about it. I'm not trying to scare you. In fact, I should have given it to you before the New York public service announcement, but since they've gone ahead and let the cat out of the bag, then I am free to tell you this is not so far-fetched or far away. Okay? 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 10. But the day of the Lord will come like a thief, and then the heavens will pass away with a roar, and the heavenly bodies will be burned up and dissolved, and the earth and the works that are done on it will be exposed. Since all these things are thus to be dissolved, what sort of people ought you to be in lives of holiness and godliness, waiting for and hastening the coming of the day of the Lord, because of which the heavens will be set on fire and dissolved, and the heavenly bodies will melt as they burn. I find that a lot of the fulfillments of prophecy can be naturally explained. People think that, if it can be explained, then it doesn't fulfill prophecy. Well, this could be explained by a nuclear holocaust. It could be some other fire, but it obviously would fulfill, nuclear explosions would fulfill this. All right, Zechariah chapter 14. Zechariah 14 verse 12 is really clear. And this shall be the plague with which the Lord will strike all the peoples that wage war against Jerusalem. See if this has happened already. Their flesh will rot while they are still standing on their feet. Their eyes will rot in their sockets, and their tongues will rot in their mouths. Has this happened before? This has happened in Hiroshima, but not in biblical time. There was no army that was capable of doing this kind of damage to their enemies. This has already happened. It happened twice in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Revelation 8, verse 10. The third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star fell from heaven. Something's coming from the sky, blazing like a torch. It fell on the third of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star is Wormwood. And the coincidence of this is, we don't really know what wormwood is. It is a type of, technically it's just a type of plant or herb, but it's something enigmatic, and it happens to be translated in Russian, Chernobyl. And Chernobyl was one of the biggest nuclear accidents that we know of. A third of the waters became wormwood, and many people died from the water because it had been made radioactive. But that's my translation of bitter. Radioactive is not a word that existed during biblical times. So what are you going to choose? What did people die of? Bitter water. So he said the water became bitter. What kind of star would make water bitter? What kind of fiery thing that falls out of the sky would make the water bitter? See, so you've got some very clear futuristic nuances or picture that's being given to us. Ezekiel 38, 39 is the Gog-Magog war, but what you find interesting is the cleanup process. It is the protocol for how to handle radioactive waste. It's literally right there. So God says, when Israel wins this war, Israel will collect the weapons of their enemies and burn them for 7 years. Can you name any bow and arrow that you can burn for 7 years? How much wood, how many chariots can you burn for 7 years? I think you can burn all chariots within a day. You know, a bonfire is pretty fast moving. A whole city can burn in a day. But here it says, the weapons that are left will be used for fuel for 7 years. I only know uranium, plutonium, these elements that you just take a tiny amount, such a tiny, minuscule amount, and it could run a submarine for 25 years. You know that? So that's a description. And then it says, there will be many people dead, but they can't bury them. Why not? They're glowing, they're radioactive. So it says, a team will go out scouting, they will send men out. When they find the bone, they're not to touch it, they're to put a sign by the bone. Then another team will come and get the bone and bury it in a special place. That's exactly how you handle radioactive stuff. And it's in Ezekiel 39. So what we're saying is, only in our age is any of this possible. These 4 scriptures that I've alluded to can now be fulfilled. I'm not trying to scare you that it will happen tomorrow. I'm just saying, from henceforth, it can happen. And with the situation between Biden and Russia, they seem to want it to happen before 2024. There doesn't seem to be anybody sane enough or have the leadership skills or the negotiation skills like Trump has to be able to diffuse this. They don't want to diffuse it. So only in this age is it possible. Number two, the U.S. has historically dropped 2 atomic bombs on Japan. So by the law of sowing and reaping, atomic bombs, unfortunately, have to be dropped on the U.S. People forget because it's been so many years. People say, well, that was a long time. Well, that's exactly what happens with seeds. You plant a seed, you forget about it, and a long time later, out sprouts a huge tree with leaves and fruits. It takes time. Sometimes it takes years to see the fruit. Most fruits take at least 5 years. So it's nothing to God that America sowed this in 1945, and it's not even been 100 years. At some point, America has to reap. America has to answer for what America's done. America's a great country. I love America. I love Americans. But you've been involved in nearly all major wars in the past 200 years. And you've instigated most of those wars, and people have died, and their blood is crying out in the soil all over the earth. At some point, this needs to be reconciled. The accounts have to be balanced. You got a lot of grace because there's so many Christians in America, but once you remove those Christians and they no longer believe the Bible, they no longer go to church, they no longer pray, they make fun of the Holy Spirit and praying in tongues, then eventually that salt begins to lose its flavor. And the light becomes dim, and that's when the judgment will come. So right now, if America's to reap a nuclear bomb, and that's going to affect the whole world because we're allies, by the way, Australia. We just do whatever America says. So we're involved in this. We're involved. We are a target, right? Who's going to do it? Russia is the greatest nuclear power in the world, not America. Russia is the greatest nuclear superpower. So if anybody's going to drop a bomb on America, it's going to be Russia. But guess what? China goes into action, and who's the only threat in this region? Australia! So if China drops some strategic bombs on us, we're incapacitated, nobody else will fight China. Done. If you were China, you'd have to think about it. Are we going to fight every country in the Pacific, or just get rid of Australia? Or subjugate Australia? Australia's quiet, Australia's tame, we're done. Indonesia's not going to fight, Philippines not going to fight, Thailand's not going to fight, nobody else is going to fight, because everyone's looking at, will America rescue Australia? And if America does not rescue Australia, game over. The Pacific has fallen. You don't need to fight much more, which is good news for the rest of the Pacific, but really bad news for us here. So I'm just saying, I know you don't think about these things, but these people are thinking about these things. They are planning. They have, what do they call it? War games. They game this out before it happens. That's how you would game it out. Russia would attack America, China would attack Australia. We're pretty much done. So the West is not getting stronger. The West is getting weaker. The economy is weaker. The inflation's higher. Unemployment's worse. People collecting dole has increased. And we are denuclearizing and defossilizing and decarbonizing. We are shooting ourselves in the foot. What made us strong, we're voluntarily surrendering to the climate change activists. So we're not in a very strong position to do anything about it, other than we as Christians who know what's going on, we can pray. So when we ask you, hey, come and pray with us power prayer, how long is it? 5 hours. Ooh, that's a bit long. Well, how does 5 months of nuclear winter sound to you? Does that sound long? How about when you have no job at all and no income at all because everything shuts down with a nuclear winter? Then 5 hours of praying will seem very short, right? So put things in perspective. We live in such a comfortable, rich country. We think, it doesn't touch us. It doesn't matter to us. But I think, to me, that's the ideal time to get serious with God. Now, God can get our attention in other ways. You know, He did allow World War II. That's horrific. He did allow World War I. And Jesus says what is going to come upon the earth in the last days will be worse than anything man has seen heretofore. I cannot imagine. Can you imagine what that means? I can't imagine what that means. They put a group of religious people on trains, disappeared them into concentration camps, totally lied about it, like they're going to a hotel, then put them in first of all, they did it in ovens, like a chicken. They just roasted people because of their religious belief, just roasted them. And then it turned out to be too hard, and it traumatized the soldiers too much to see all the ash and to smell the human flesh, and it traumatized. It's too hard to kill that many people. So they were ingenious, and they said, we have a cleaner, more sanitized way to get rid of religious people. And they sent them to gas chambers. And they said, you will be taking a shower, please strip. And people going in, not knowing what is this about, went in to have their shower and died. Because what came out of the faucet is not water, but toxic gas. And killed them that way. And what's going to happen in the last days is worse than that. And you say, well, how can that happen? You don't know Dan Andrews has already built these quarantine facilities at Mickleham, and they're all throughout Australia. They're currently empty. And they always lie about why you're going to go there. So I'm just asking, I'm not saying be scared, I'm not saying it's going to happen right away, but I'm just asking, wouldn't it be worth our time, since Jesus lives in us and He gave us the power, that we spend a bit more time praying? That when it's 7 o'clock and we're in the time zone of Australia, we have Americans, more Americans join us, and it's like 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and they're joining us every single day. We hardly have Australians praying. I think you will remember my words if something unforeseen, unsuspected happens. And now we say, where was God? I would rather not have that happen. I'd rather that we pray and delay this as long as we can. Okay?